Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares 1982 album wars continue. Before we divulge the two albums we're going to be talking about today, let's introduce the panel here. We got starting down at the bottom, going up. We got Steve Keeler, Nick Franco, Christian Canzaneri in our center square, Chris Allo, Butch Jones, and Mr. Ryan Scow. So today, this is actually Kansas' idea on this particular matchup, which pains me, and I think a couple others here. I know one other person especially who's pretty pained on this one. Two great albums from 1982, Guitar Hero albums for the most part. We've got Assault Attack by the Michael Schenker Group, the one album with Graham Bonnet in the lead vocal slot, all by his lonesome. Didn't last too long, unfortunately. And then Corridors of Power by the great Irish guitar legend Gary Moore. Two killer albums, lots of great songs, some amazing guitar playing. We're each going to talk about each of the albums and give our assessment on which one we prefer of the two. So, Mr. Keeler, I'm going to have you kick us off here today.
Man, you're throwing me right under the bus.
Right to the wolves, man.
Right into the fire. Luckily, I'm not as drunk as the lead singer we were talking about just a little while ago. We won't disclose, but I'm not having drank yet. We're good. So, yeah, we're talking Gary Moore and MSG. Tell you the truth, I haven't listened to either one of these albums in quite a while, but I listened to both a ton, and they're both in shuffle in my store because I have an iPod, and both of these albums are in it. And on the Gary Moore record, if I'm going to pick three songs, which I do kind of, which we've been doing, the three songs that kind of highlight me on that album, of course, End of the World, which is amazing. I love his cover of Wishing Well, and Don't Take Me for a Loser are the three songs that might stand out the most. But I mean, it's just a solid album all through. The ballads are good. And on the Michael Schenker Group, haven't listened to that in full in a long time. Like I said, all these albums I hear in shuffle, so I hear a song like it's on radio or something. But I'm gonna go with Assault Attack. The title track is one of my top three songs on that album. I think it's heavy, it's nasty. I love Graham Bonnet. I love what he did on this album. I think it's one of his best works from him. Desert Song is another song that I like a lot from that record.
As you should.
I should. I thought Butch might recommend that song. So, and my third pick is Samurai. I love Samurai also. Of course, I'm leaving out some other great songs, but I had to pick three. And I'm leaning MSG on this. I'm going Michael Schenker for the win. Just it's a little heavier, and I just love this record. I haven't followed Michael Schenker as much since back in these days. I know he's putting out good music still, but I think this is one of the best albums he's done, and Graham on it. It's just a great record, and no offense to Gary Moore, but I am going to go Michael Schenker Group. But it was a very tough decision, though.
Okay. Sounds good. Nothing in favor of the German guitar god. Nick Franco, welcome back.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Hey, it's good to be back. Yeah, so for me, unlike all of you, I'm sure, this was very new to me. I never developed a relationship with these artists. I mean, I know who they are and everything, but in fact, the only time I'd ever heard Gary Moore was he did a cover. A band I used to listen to called Nightwish used to do a cover of Over the Hills and Far Away by him. And that's the first time I heard his name. So I didn't know that he had this whole giant thing, but from listening to you guys,
Surprise!
Yeah, this whole, what is it, a career? Yeah, but I didn't know. What do I know? I'm busy chasing all the music that I've chased. But I can say, listening to these two albums, I can absolutely see why you guys love them. I think if somebody had shook me in 1985-6 when I was coming into liking what I love now, if somebody had added this to the little soup of like Ozzy and Def Leppard and Guns N' Roses that I was getting into at the time, I think I would have absolutely took to it. So I like the Gary Moore's. I like a lot of the the singing on Corridors of Power. It's not something that I would probably listen to all the time, but at the same time, I found myself thinking that if all music sounded like this today, like if you turn on the radio and this is what was on, I think it would be beautiful. And I think there was what a great time that there was so many virtuoso people performing at this time. What a wonderful time to be alive.
You have no idea, man.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it's like now you turn on the radio, it's like garbage. Like if this was on, I'd be like, oh, I can appreciate this. As my daughter. But for me, I'm gonna pick also Michael Schenker album because that is closer to the corridor that I'm on.
Pardon the pun.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm definitely Assault Attack is much closer to just the sound, the rhythm section of all of that just sounds a lot closer to what I absolutely would have loved this if I found it back then. I like it now. I'm glad that I got into it. I think my favorite, I really like Samurai. That's awesome. What a song. Crank that shit. Desert Song, awesome. Title track, awesome. And I really like the Ulcer, the song Ulcer, like that. I can listen to that over and over again. That's freaking awesome.
That's a great.
Yeah. So thanks for opening my eyes to these albums. I would definitely say MSG is more my speed. So I'll pick MSG.
All right. Yeah. 2-0 for Mr. Schenker. Mr. Canzaneri, our center square.
Hey, when I first thought of this, I thought it would go a certain way. And when I sat down to re-listen to these albums, because I actually haven't touched either one of them in quite a while, it went completely the opposite way that I thought it would. I hit Assault Attack first, and I got to agree with Steve. I think Graham Bonnet was in rare form. I think really this and the first Alcatraz album were his best performances. I mean, he's just got a fire that he didn't have with Rainbow. And, I was really loving Graham. So I listened to that all the way through. I remembered everything fine, whatever. And then I put on Gary Moore, and geez, I listened to that album 5 times. And I think that the big difference for me, it's like trying to listen to it for the first time again, and it's like kind of I've never heard this before, and let me listen to this. And that Gary Moore album, I mean, I don't know if we'd ever heard such fiery, muscular tones coming from a Stratocaster up until that point in our lives. And he's just blazing. He never stops, even on the ballads. It's like, okay, I'm going to sing something. I'm going to make you feel a little something. Also, I'm going to play this run that's going to fucking melt your face. And, there was like no first gear, he was just going for it the whole time. And man, I loved it. It just hit. It landed so hard. I'm like, I'm still listening to it now. I started on Friday and I was like, damn, how did I ever put this album in a place where I can't grab it every single day? And I think the slow songs, they have more of an R&B kind of thing going on. They're kind of looking backwards a little more than like Dancer on the Michael Schenker album is definitely looking forwards, with some synths and that's a direction that I didn't really like down the road. Not that MSG took, but everything kind of started hitting that synth, we got to have a ballad on every album kind of deal, which sort of threw it back towards Gary for me. So I still love both albums. They're still, 2 of my all-time favorites, but this, week, it's Gary all the way. So Corridors of Power.
All right. 2-1. Chris Allo.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. This was a first time listen for me for the Gary Moore record. Yeah, just I always knew the name Gary Moore, and like I would always hear like, oh, okay, he's coming out with a new record. Still got the blues. Blues is my thing. Black and Red and Blues All Over. I'd always hear like the tour dates and the albums coming out. But I never listened to his stuff for whatever reason, and it was definitely interesting, eye-opening. I'm glad I checked it out. There was a couple songs I thought that were awesome, and a couple songs that I thought were a little iffy. I mean, I liked the opening track, "Don't Take Me for a Loser." The second song was a ballad, And I'm like, it's a great ballad.
Wait.
but I'm
A
like, right,
ballad?
always gonna love you. Wasn't that the second track?
No.
All right, so the version that I
Oh, that's not a ballad. Even well, I thought you were going elsewhere. So yeah, Always Gonna Love You is the second song, but come on, a ballad?
it's
That's not a
it's
ballad.
kind of ballady, but then I love the free cover. And then like at one point I actually said out loud a sentence I have never said in my life, going, wow, he kind of sounds like Glenn Hughes. I mean, nobody sounds like Glenn Hughes, but to me, on I think it was the fourth track, and definitely Cold Hearted, it definitely reminded me of Glenn Hughes. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, nobody sounds like Glenn Hughes. So I definitely dug his vocal style. The guitar playing was great. I mean, when I got to the track End of the World, I actually said out loud, Gary, what the fuck? Like, I would have loved a whole record of songs like this. But from the limited stuff that I read recently online, apparently the next record, like before he got super into the blues stuff, was a little more hard rocky. Like, so I'm like, all right, I'll have to check out.
Victims of the Future definitely is. If you like the heavy stuff, there's plenty of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Gotcha.
I'll even go further than that. If you want the heavy stuff, it's the album before this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Dirty
And what was that
Fingers.
one called?
Yeah, Dirty Fingers is great.
Okay. All right. And yeah, I mean, he's got like a ton of albums. But yeah, I thought it was overall, I liked it. I mean, the first, I did think, man, 2 ballads out of 9 tracks. And then I'm like, okay, wait, so there's a cover and 2 ballads out of 9 tracks. I'm like, all right, but overall, I definitely enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but, Assault Attack is just unbelievable. I've been an MSG fan or a Schenker fan for a long time. And man, I love Graham Bonnet, and I would definitely agree with Christian. I mean, his performance on this is just unbelievable. I mean, I always thought how cool it would be to see Graham Bonnet with Michael Schenker, and I was lucky to see it in 2018 and again 2019. I mean, everybody named the great tracks already, but even just that middle section of Dancer, Desert Song, and Samurai. I mean, that thing just blows me away. So yeah, I mean, I have it in this box set. I had the vinyl somewhere, but yeah, I'm definitely going to go Assault Attack. But having said that, I'll certainly check out more Gary Moore stuff in the future. But yeah, the Glenn Hughes thing, I'm like, this, I don't know if it was just me, but I had to like look it up on Wikipedia. I'm like, that's not Glenn Hughes like guesting or something. But then I read how they were friends, and I read something that
he did the album after Victims of the Future. Glenn sings like 3 or 4 songs on Run for Cover.
Gotcha.
The album.
Yeah,
yeah.
2 albums.
They sound
later.
great together, really good together.
I'll have to check that. And then I heard some weird story that who was it? It was John Bonham wanted to kill Glenn Hughes because he thought Glenn Hughes banged his wife. But Gary Moore was hiding Glenn Hughes. I was like, this. I mean, I read the Glenn Hughes book, but I don't remember that. But I'm like, this sounds like a great story. I don't know if it's real, but I love the story.
I thought you were going down the road of the Phil Lynott story, where he wanted to kill Glenn Hughes and Gary was hiding him at his house.
Oh, well, yeah, that's right. I did read that one, so maybe I'm mixing them up too. But yeah, there was some. Obviously, they knew each other, and yeah, they definitely had some similarities, which I thought was really cool.
That's cool that you hear that. That's cool.
But yeah, it was good. It was definitely it was a good listen. But yeah, I'm still going Assault Attack, which I think is just a masterpiece. I mean, I guess it's my favorite of the early Schenker records. Yeah. I don't think I like anything as much as that album.
Cool. All right. 3-1 in favor of Schenker. Assault Attack. All right, Butch.
Strap in, kids. So here we go. The 2 original vinyl. So I saw this album. I've talked about this before on the show. I used to see this album cover, or the album, at Record World in Fishkill, New York, in 1982. I would go through the imports, and I kept looking at this. I'm like, look at that! Look at that fire behind him, like the volcano and the guitar, the flying V's. Like, this has got to be good. This just come the cover alone. This has got to be great, and it fucking is. Graham Bonnet, like you guys have already said, this without a doubt is my favorite, and I think that the greatest vocal performance of Graham Bonnet's history.
Absolutely.
He is so on fire. And I was already into Schenker. I kind of came in on the second album, the Michael Schenker group, and that, well, I think it's been established how much I love Cozy Powell. So Cozy's on the second record. He's not on this record, but Chris Glenn and Cozy has such a great chemistry as a rhythm section. And then on this album, you get Chris Glenn and Ted McKenna, who had equally as great of a chemistry together. And this album is also produced by Martin Birch. So I think we all have history with Martin Birch somewhere along the line, and he does not disappoint on a production on that record. This album is heavy as fuck. Is without a doubt my favorite Michael Schenker album. So let's just put that out there to start with. It's my favorite Schenker album. It always has been. It always will be. You guys have already mentioned Samurai several times. Samurai to me is my favorite Michael Schenker guitar solo ever, even over the UFO stuff. The solo in that song is brilliant. And Schenker is just off his tits the whole fucking album. Just brilliant. Song after song after song. There's not a weak song. Bonnet on it is just being Graham Bonnet. So that by itself is just brilliant. And then we talk about this record. So let me go back and say this. I have this whole theory that I have four, I've always said three, and I thought about this recently. I have four pillars of guitar heroes. So normally I wouldn't say, but Pete will say like in a week, it's like, you never said who your other two guys were. So one of them.
I only say it because that's what the viewers say.
I know. I always kind of keep it like, let me see if anyone even fucking cares before I even say anything. So Gary Moore is one. Michael Schenker is two. The other two are Edward, without a doubt, obviously, for me. And then the fourth, which people might not think of, but I talk about all the time, is George Lynch. Because George Lynch, people don't think about him in the same scope as the other three, which he should be. But Lynch is a guy from 82 on. He influenced people just the same. I hear Lynchisms in people every day, and he doesn't get the credit as much as he should for being so influential. So those are my four. So anyway, this is where I came in. Well, no, because Sykes comes from the Gary Moore school. So Gary Moore is the pillar. So to me, it's like a family tree. Out of those four guys, every guitar player that I love in the rock realm comes from one of those four.
Okay.
So Sykes has his own thing too, but he comes from the Gary Moore tree. If it wasn't this guy, there wouldn't be a Sykes. So
Butch, you have John Sykes on line two.
He'll be the first one to tell you too. And Viv, I mean, I get my.
Oh, that's right. There's another one.
But I get my.
He's looking for the oil, right? Is that's what he's calling for?
Nice lather, nice lather.
I will give.
Butch, would you get me shoulder?
Oh. That was good. I'll give you that one, Chris. That was good.
For those of you who are watching, wonder what the hell we're talking about, go watch one of the old episodes.
Exactly. And we mentioned John Sykes, so I have to drink now.
That's right.
There it is.
Yeah, it's been sitting there for months, collecting dust.
Just waiting for me to say something, right?
Oil, Mike.
Jesus.
I'll put it back in its storage spot now.
Oh, God damn it. But this is where I came in with Gary Moore. And this album means so much to me. Like I said, finding out about him and then hearing the guys that I discovered after, Viv, John Norum, they all come from the Gary Moore school. And this record is tremendous. And actually, I'll even give you a little tidbit. If you can actually see the picture of Gary Moore right there, any Warren DeMartini fans out there, that picture right there of the bomber, Warren DeMartini had a guitar made of a bomber or Charvel, and it's that. It's from Gary Moore's, just from the cover of that. So there's a little tidbit of information. So Warren loves Gary too. This album is just, neither one of these albums have gone very far for me. I've listened to these albums forever since then. So I don't have to do any homework. I listen to these two records still all the time. This is my second favorite Gary Moore record. Like I already mentioned to Chris, Dirty Fingers, you can't beat Dirty Fingers, but that's a whole nother topic. That's for another day. But this record is brilliant. I wish I don't have the vinyl on the original UK cover. This is what we got here in the States. Like Pete had showed before. Yeah, that's the real one. But
I had the same vinyl as you had back
yeah,
then.
yeah. But man, I'm telling you, this record, it opened so many fucking doors for me. It just, this was my gateway to Gary. I didn't know about Thin Lizzy really yet at that time. I definitely didn't know that he was in Thin Lizzy at all. So that was all coming. But it was this album that brought me down that road. And like you guys have already said, and actually, let me say back to this. This was produced by Jeff Glicksman, who the next album after this, well, I don't know if it's literally the next album he did after this, and this is 82. So in 83, he did Saxon's Power and Glory, which is my favorite Saxon album. He produced that as well, which sounds tremendous as well. And that was the first album with Nigel Glockler. Love that record.
And you might as well tell everybody who's playing drums on that.
Oh, on this record, yeah, Ian Pace.
That's right.
Ian Pace from Deep Purple's on this. And I saw this tour, which is another reason why I love this album so much. I saw him open for Def Leppard on the Pyromania tour. It was Gary Moore, Crocus, and Def Leppard at the Hartford Civic Center in Connecticut. I'll never forget it. Tremendous. And yes, I did buy a baseball sleeve shirt with this cover with Gary on it.
Nice.
My goodness. You guys
Where
have
is
already
that
mentioned
shirt?
the songs, but I anytime I talk about Gary Moore, as the hands are already starting to go, the word fire has to be mentioned. There was nobody that had the fire like Gary did. Gary played every solo like it was his last, and it didn't matter if it was in the early days with Skid Row, and then Coliseum 2, and in his solo stuff, and in the Lizzy and everything. And even in the blues stuff, the soloing was Gary Moore. It didn't matter what the vehicle of the music was. It was always Gary's solo, and it was the same. Gary was Gary. He played everything like he meant it, and it was the last thing he was ever going to play. And he does it in spades on this fucking record. God damn, do I love this record so much. End of the World, like you guys have said, the first time hearing that, it starts with the solo, and you're like, what the fuck is this? He just goes ballistic. And again, this is 1982. So the only reference of stuff that you have that's anything like this was Edward and Randy and Shanker really too. But Gary took it to a whole nother level. It was godlike. And like Christian had mentioned with the Strat, the 61 Fiesta Red, the salmon pink Strat, there wasn't a Strat that sounded like that before. So, God, having said all that, it has to be this record. So, yes, I took you down that road. You think, yeah, it's gonna be Gary Moore. There is not much that beats this album. This is a perfect record. Bonnet is tremendous. Shanker is tremendous. Like I said earlier, Chris Glenn and Ted McKenna. And that cover, that to me, that is one of the biggest things. Just looking at that cover, it brings back so many memories as being a kid and looking through the imports. And like, when I have $18, I'm gonna buy this record. Probably wasn't even 18, it was probably 12. But whatever it was back then, it was more than I had in my pocket as a 15-year-old or whatever. But when
and on top of the coolness, we haven't mentioned it yet, but on top of the coolness factor, when you flip the album around, it's probably the only time you're ever going to see Graham Bonnet wearing a leather jacket.
Exactly. You're right. If you can see it, he does look pretty fucking cool in that.
Michael probably had to pay him an extra like $500.
I was just going to say,
right?
Shanker roughed him up a little before that. He's like, listen, you're putting
this, take that fucking coat off, dude. Come on.
That's a stark contrast.
Cut off his tie.
That is a big difference from him on Down to Earth for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Butch,
yeah,
can I ask you a question, Butch?
Absolutely.
For like the 1982, right? So where do you put this album, Assault Attack, with like, where do you put it in relation to Number of the Beast and Screaming for Vengeance?
It's definitely above Screaming for Vengeance. I love that record. It's not even my favorite Priest record.
Same here.
There's stuff. I mean, it's the album that got them success in the States. And it's not my favorite, but I do like it for sure. It would have to be number 2 after Beast in '82. Beast would have to be number 1.
Yeah.
And then that. Yeah. But both of those records are just, you can't go wrong either one. Hi, Steve.
I got a question for Butch also. I'd love to see that Gary Moore jersey that you bought at the show. Do you still have it?
No, it's long gone. I cut the sleeves up and then one of those days, I'm never going to wear this again. And then off it went. And then 5 years later, why did I do all that?
Yep. We all did that.
You cut up your Ozzy tour book. You cut up your jerseys. Oh, Butch. Are you going to
And
tell
then
me you
threw
threw
out all
away?
the shirts.
Next, you're going to tell me you threw away all your old action figures?
No more scissors, man. No more scissors.
He did sell me his pinball machines too.
Well, that's true too. That's a good point.
That's how I don't know what to do now.
I wish I had kept both of those pinball machines too.
Yeah.
But if the Wayne Gretzky machine comes out, I will buy that, and that's never going anywhere. I can promise that.
There you go.
At least they could make an NHL one. Right?
I don't want that. I want, it's got to be a Wayne Gretzky.
I don't know.
Gretzky or bust.
Gretzky or bust.
All right, 4-1. Mr. Scow, where are you going to sit on this one here?
Yeah, I went back and forth a lot on this one for a lot of the same reasons that you guys have said. When it comes to MSG, like you've said, it's my favorite album by them by a country fucking mile. But I don't know a ton of their stuff. Obviously, One Night at Budokan, Built to Destroy, but I don't really know most of their career. But it's like I don't even bother because this album's perfect. Like Butch said, this is definitely the best thing Graham Bonnet ever sang on. His voice is on fire. The leads are amazing. But when it comes to the Gary Moore album, to me, this is one in a long series of really, really good albums he did back in the 80s. Like I like pretty much everything up to Wild Frontier, which is a little totally different sound. But and like obviously Run for Cover is awesome. Victors of the Future, Dirty Fingers. So this started a whole tradition of really good albums for him, and obviously all the Thin Lizzy stuff. So this sits like comfortably in this great run of albums he was doing. Like I said, the solos on Corridors, I don't know, this might be the best lead work he's ever done for me. It's just, like you said, End of the World, almost every song on the album, his lead work is out of fucking control. And so I was really kind of going, like I listened to an album, I'm like, this is definitely it. This is the best one. I'm going to go with this. And then I put the other one. I'm like, nah, I kind of feel like this is the one. So you know what? At the end of the day, I got to go with MSG too, because I'd say overall, I'm a bigger fan of like more of Gary's stuff. I probably take him as a guitar player. Obviously, they're both phenomenal, but I probably take him as a guitar player because I like his style a little bit more. But just if you're going album for album, which we are, the MSG is just impossible to beat. It's so good. Every song's anthemic. It's good for driving in the car. It's good for parties. It's good for headphones. Martin Birch's production's awesome. No surprise there. So MSG for me by just a little bit. It's not a wipeout. It's a very close call, but I'm gonna, ask me tomorrow. I might change my mind, but right now I'm going with MSG. And I can't pick songs for either one because to me they're both cases. You put the album on, you listen to the whole thing. So obviously, End of the World, Samurai, also some of the ones you guys have said, but I can't pick songs for these albums. They're just very solid all the way through. There's no filler. There's no weak stuff. The ballads are good. I usually don't like ballads. But in this case, the ballads are good. So, fuck it, MSG.
You know what?
I heard from Lynn, and she actually, she's voting for Gary Moore on this one. So before me, we're at 5-2. So I guess my vote doesn't really count, but I'm going to go through this anyway, because this was pretty difficult.
Yes, it was. Fuck you, Christian.
Well, it's a tough one. It's a good choice too.
It is. No, it really is.
It had to be done.
And what made it even tougher for me is, I'm doing this whole countdown, my favorite 28 albums of 1982 every day on the show. So I knew these two were going to be kind of going head to head anyway. And then we decided to do it here on the Squares. So, all right, let's tackle this one first. So great album, top to bottom. Every song is really good. This is Graham Bonnet's tour de force. And I love the Alcatraz album, the first album, but I think this by far, and let's face it, Graham has done a lot of really great vocals in his career, but this is kind of like leagues above.
Oh.
The rhythm section is thunderous. The production is amazing. Schenker's solos are melodic. They're vicious, so memorable. And every song is just great. And it's a pretty damn heavy album. And I love the first two MSG albums a lot. Yep. But even they don't touch this one.
Nope.
They don't touch this one. I've been listening to this regularly for 40 years and I never get tired of it. And I'll be the first to admit when Mr. Bonnet took his little guy out in front of 100,000 people at whatever, Donington or Reading, whatever the hell, and pissed on whoever.
Was it there?
And
I always thought it was Japan.
No, it was
it
was
England. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When I heard about it, of course, there was no internet back then. So we heard about it like 2 months later. And we're like, what? He's gone from the band already after they released this great album? And
well, that's one way to get out of the band.
I guess.
I'm the lead guitar player.
He probably was like, fuck that Schenker guy. Maybe wear that leather jacket. I'm going to go out. Crashed it. I'm going to badmouth him in front of 100,000 people.
He's like, I don't want to quit. So if I just pee on him, he'll fire me.
That's it, right?
Crazy.
You're done, right? So, So, this is like a 5 out of 5 star record, without a doubt. This is one of, you talk about game changer albums, right? Albums that you heard and at a place in your life where it just completely changed the way you think about music and think about guitar players, think about albums, styles of music, all that sort of thing. I remember, and everybody on this call obviously can probably picture a song or an album where you heard that first song on 101.5 WPDH in Poughkeepsie. And I heard Always Gonna Love You one night. I think it was on a weekend. We listened to the radio and, you hear this piano kind of bally thing coming on, but then all of a sudden the riffs kick in and that guitar solo. And I remember the guitar solo kicked in. I was like, who the hell is that? And then the DJ didn't say who it was. I was like, so I had to wait like a week till I heard it again. And then they said, who it was. Brand new album, Corridors of Power. I was like, I got to go out and get that. So I went to Record World in Middletown and I bought it, not with this cover, with the one that Butch showed. And I think in between the time I heard it for the second time and I went to buy the record, I also heard Ends of the World on the radio because they played both of them. Yep. And I remember again that opening just assault, and I'm like, holy crap, who is that? And then that was like that Gary Moore guy again, right? And I love this entire album, start to finish, top to bottom, even like, Falling in Love with You, which is
see, that's the one I didn't like. I would skip that, and that's kind of
what it is. Well, back in the day, that was the song you would play for like the girl you're trying to date or whatever. It's like because you listen to all this crazy heavy music. I'm like, oh well, listen to this. You like this? I'll put it on a mixtape for you, right? Because that's what I would do. So, but man, Wishing Well is so good. Don't Take It for a Loser cranks. But for me, man, I can't wait until tomorrow. Love the build up to that song, and Rocking Every Night. The whole thing is just absolutely great. Gary's vocals are amazing. Got Jack Bruce singing on End of the World. The production is fantastic. The rhythm section is fantastic. His guitar tone is absolutely lethal. So, in saying all that, this is really tough. To me, it doesn't get any tougher than this, but you got to pick one. And for me, I think the absolute perfection from start to finish of every single song, I've got to give it to Assault Attack by this much. It ain't by much. It ain't by much. Gary, both of these guys are two of my favorites of all time. Blackmore, Iommi, Gary Moore, and Schenker are my top 4. And I think both of these are among their best work ever.
Yep.
But there's just a little bit something extra that this gives me. But I love them both, and I would take either one of these to a desert or both of them to a desert island. Just amazing stuff. So
absolutely agreed. And like I was saying, looking through the albums and seeing this all those months, and then going home and finally buying it and going home and then hearing, putting the needle on and hearing the beginning, the assault attack.
I'm amazed you waited. I'm amazed you waited. I was like, because I bought the first two, and as soon as I saw them, I'm like, that's going on with me. That's good. That's it.
Young people will never know, like the anticipation you guys are talking about, like looking at something, you having to wait a week. Now you press a button on your phone and hold it up to the speaker, and it tells you what it is. It's like kids. I mean, and there's probably a lot of I know there's a lot of young people that listen to us, and I bet I've heard from some of them that say how, they can't imagine like waiting that long for like looking at an album and wondering what it was about. That's a beautiful thing that kind of doesn't happen anymore.
Well,
gone. Yeah, you can hear whatever you want on YouTube. So
absolutely, and so that's the thing. Nick, you're exactly right. That's why I'm so passionate and get so worked up about all this shit. Is because I've had 40 years of
investment,
living with this, and an investment. Because the bottom line of it was, I liked the cover, but I didn't know what it sounded like. So you were taking, I mean, again, 1982, 83, whenever I got this, it was an import. So, so understand, albums back then, a domestic album might have been $9. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're 14, 15 years old in 82, it was like, can you lend me $5 so I can buy this album? But, this was probably 15. So you're taking a risk. I had no idea what this sound. I knew who Michael Schenker was because I had already knew UFO, and I had the live album, and I think I had the second record, the MSG group already. So the Michael Schenker group, excuse me, I already had that. But still, I didn't know if this was going to live up to that. So you're taking a risk. And when that risk pays off, you're invested. Like, this is my thing, And matter of fact, you can even, I don't know if you can, you can't see
price
it.
tag there.
No, it says made in England.
Oh yeah. They used to put that, it almost looked like a price tag sticker.
Yeah, I
and it
know.
would actually tell you what country's origin would be on those.
Made in England.
I mean, this starts a whole other discussion. I mean, how many people here today on this panel bought albums back in the, whenever you first started collecting music, just based on an album cover, and you had no idea what the music. I mean, I did it all the time. All the time.
People in my age group and ones that were around back then, you did that because you didn't have any other way. And like I said, and it wasn't like, why did you wait so long to get it? You might not have had the money.
Steve, you had the phonograph, right? That was
the phonograph. Yeah, that was a phonograph. Yes.
Yeah,
he's a phonograph record.
Wind it up.
I'm not quite as old as Nick Franco. Nick Franco's a vampire, and he's been alive hundreds of years.
But Steve, you're right though. But it was that. It's like you would go, like I was saying with that one. I would see it for months and months and months, knowing that I want to buy it, but I don't have the extra money to get it. But I know that there's something about that I have to get it. And whenever that day came, and then to go home and to put it on and put that needle down and then go sit down across the room and hear those opening riffs, and you're like, oh, I'm not let down. Oh my God.
I just hearing the import bins struck like a memory with me, because it's something you really don't see anymore. And the import bin was a metalhead thing a lot back then too.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
And that's like, I don't have an import bin at Rock Fantasy. Yeah, we have some import stuff, but you don't have a bin for it. But
Steve, you could probably say better than anybody else. I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I said all the albums in that bin were just a little bit too bendy on the corners. Like, what are these all about?
And then of course there was other things like there was many great album covers that came home and the investment wasn't worth because it had a great album cover, and you're like, what's this? Looks like it's great, and you put it on, it's like, I don't really like this. Can I trade this to a friend or something? You try to get
I bought that Rockwell album. You remember Rockwell?
No.
This album was black. It had the word rock on it, and it was written in red, and it's like, this look cool, gotta be good. Rockwell, yeah.
Is that the guy that's saying everybody's watching me? The Michael Jackson song?
Yes.
Wow, that's a mistake.
Yeah,
dumbass.
That one, I was
I
all
rolled the
set,
dice.
and I put that on. I'm like, oops.
Yeah, you rolled the dice on that one.
I mean, talking about
God,
buying
yeah.
albums that you never heard in 1982 and just taking chances, and even up
Yeah.
to mid 80s, it happened a lot. I mean, Metallica Kill 'Em All is one I think of. Never heard it, picked it up. It's like, holy shit, what's this?
But you know what? You're absolutely right. But I think for most of us, Nick, you're definitely Nick and Ryan. You guys are definitely out of this. But actually, probably
Yeah.
Chris too. You three are probably out of this. Well, I guess later on it would have been for you guys. But for us, we found Kerrang magazine,
Oh yeah,
and
Yeah,
Kerrang was the
dude, I'm
Bible.
old. I'm gonna be 51. I bought Kerrang all the time.
He just looks
Yeah,
like.
but when did you come into Kerrang? Like what year?
Oh, probably not till like 85, 86.
That's what I'm saying. I thought that's why I just meant like a time frame.
Yeah.
But Kerrang, if you got Kerrang and Kerrang talked about it, it was pretty much a safe bet. You know, so like with
Mhm.
Metallica, I remember seeing them in Kerrang and seeing that album cover and the logo. You're like, "Wow, this looks fucking cool. What's this?" And then Kerrang gave it the seal of approval. You're like, "Okay." And then I remember going out and getting that and like, "Oh shit, Kerrang was right again."
What we did in like the 90s was my friend thought of this. Like you look at the thank you list, the acknowledgments list of an album you liked. And
That's
I
what
know
I
we
did
did
a
this with a
lot.
couple. We did this with what band did we
I
do
still
this
do
with?
that. I
Like
still
My
do that.
Dying
That's
Bride
what
or
I
some
do.
of these like English doom bands. And we just looked at all the bands that they primarily thanked and we just
Yeah.
one by one checked out those bands. And we were if
Yep.
the band you love is saying it's good, then you probably on that. That was a
100%.
good idea.
That's not a 90s thing, Nick. I still do that to this day. If it's a really good album and you're
Oh
you're
yeah.
listening
Just
to
then it
like
was the
the
only
truck,
thing you could do.
yeah,
Over
it's
the
still
record
reliable though. You can hear good shit doing that.
Yeah. Those indie labels would put out those mixtapes. I think
Yes.
Nuclear Blast still does it now.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
you
I
gotta
have
pick up one.
compilations. I have some CD compilations in the corner that I saved from back in the day
Yep.
that springboarded. Is that a word? Springboarded me into like so many different bands.
Sprungboarded.
They were
Sprungboarded.
very important. They were
Yep.
very important. Yeah.
Christian, up to a couple of years ago, I still got those samplers from Nuclear Blast. They were the last ones that did it. And I think it's done now. That you
Oh,
don't
they
see.
stop now.
Yeah, I used to get a pile and I'd hand them out to customers even a couple of years ago. Nuclear Blast, I used to get posters, everything from, and now Nuclear Blast distro is just absorbed into some big conglomerate now.
AFM Records still does it occasionally. I'm surprised
Do they?
Napalm doesn't do it. Napalm with all this shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Shit, Steve, remember the Concrete marketing?
Concrete Corner.
Absolutely, Concrete. Those mixed ones were awesome.
Yeah,
I still got all of those.
he still kept them, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got all those. Yeah.
The only people that still do it, like I have a subscription to Classic Rock Magazine and Metal Hammer, and you still get those sometimes with those
Oh, that's cool.
in the magazines.
So Steve, as someone who's owned a record shop for all these years, I mean, we were just talking before about buying stuff sight unseen, right? Or just, cool, I'm gonna buy it, take a chance on it. I bet you nobody does that anymore, right? How many people will come into your shop and you'll say, have you ever heard this? And they'll be like, no, yeah, that's okay. Because
Well, the thing is now, Pete, if they do that and walk in the store and they look at a cover, all they got to do is pick up their phone and hit YouTube and play it. It's like, I have people that do that. They'll come in and say, and they'll go, are you that? Or they'll see how much it is on Amazon.
Oh,
Of course.
Yeah.
Or how much is it at eBay? Or, whatever, or Walmart.
I'm telling you, man, it was a great time to grow up in that innocent era where you literally just bought off the logo or the cover or whatever. It was sight unseen. You didn't have a way. You're like, this looks awesome.
Yeah.
I really think it's funny though, Steve, about what you were just talking about. So someone is sitting in your shop and you'll have the CD for like, let's say $13. And they'll go and they'll look up and it'll be $11.99 in Amazon. They'll be like, you know what? I'll just order it the next time I order from Amazon.
Yeah,
you're going to pay tax on it, maybe shipping unless you bundle it together.
Well, you
remember, wait a week for it. When you're here, you can take it home with you today.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of gotten, you can remember record stores years ago had listening booths where there would be like the CDs or whatever, and you could put the headphones on and listen. That's gone on the way to the dodo bird too,
You know,
Yeah, like
there
you said,
was
you're just gonna hold up your phone, play it on YouTube. You can hear
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, that's what I mean. Yep.
there was one band that I used to see at Record World in Poughkeepsie at the South Hills Mall in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Mhm.
I would see this album cover. Me and my friend Ralph Savino, he would laugh at me every time we looked at this. And I never bought it. And I always wanted to buy it. And I have it now. And I was just thinking about this the other day, which is why I'm bringing this up now. It was a band called Wild Dogs. It was
Yes.
called Man's Best Friend. And it
Yep.
was a cheesy, probably cost them $15 to, hey, get your dog and do this and put this in their mouth and we'll do this around. And I used to look at that all the time and I never bought it. And you know who was in that fucking band? You know, all these years later to find out that Dean Castronovo was the drummer in that band. And oh God, the guitar player was, oh my God.
Yeah, it was someone pretty notable.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't huge, but in the neoclassical early 80s world,
Jeff Mark,
no, it was
Danny
oh,
Kurth, Pete Holmes, Rick Bartell, Tom Muller,
nope, keep going.
Matt
It wa-
McCourt.
It's not his real name. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he I almost had it. He goes by his real name now on Facebook, and that's not what he went by then.
McCourt?
Nope.
No.
Jeff something, I think. I want to say Jeff. No, or James.
Not Jeff Mark, right? We said that.
Nope.
I don't know.
James Bird?
James Young?
Bird?
No. Oh God damn it! Don't make me look this up now.
Jamie St. James?
No, that was the singer in Black and Blue.
Oh. I'm just yelling stuff that I see.
God damn, I'm sorry, guys. I brought you down a road and
John
there's
Sykes.
there's no exit.
Ugh.
Oh.
Shot six.
Shit. He was in the. Oh, I want to say he went on to be in the band.
Kip Duran?
No, I want to say he was
I
in the
think
band.
Butch
with
has a
Paul-
case of the olds.
No, oh
saying.
yeah, right now I
Just
definitely
saying.
am. I want to
Strike
say he
the
was in the
elite.
band
First
later
time
on
for
with
everything.
Oh, wow.
Paul Gilbert and Black Sheep, and
All right. What did he do in the band? The
he
guy
played
you're talking about?
guitar,
Guitar.
Ukulele.
and his real name is Tad like Schumacher.
Oh,
But I can't think of what his name was that he used. Oh shit, James. Last name was James. He used. Fuck me. I fucked this all. I messed up this whole episode now.
no.
I feel like we're playing.
I'd say
Sorry, I
Pete will
don't-
take it
they
out in
better start
editing, but
over.
we all know he's not gonna.
No,
It
not
was.
good.
It's something
There's a
James.
Pete-
Kurt
there's a-
James. Kurt James.
Kurt
Kurt
James?
James. I want to say. I think is a guitar player that was
Okay.
in Wild Dogs with
I
Dean
can't remember.
Castronovo.
Grades
I
here,
don't know
man.
who Kurt James is.
Oh no.
The big
None of
mystery
you
has
guys
been
know Kurt
revealed.
James?
No,
I don't know who Kurt James is.
Really?
No.
not a
Look it
wrestler.
up, Nick.
Are these guys from Portland, Oregon?
Yes.
It just
Am
says original members Jeff Mark, Danny Kurth, Matt McCourt, and Pete Holmes.
Pete
And
Holmes
then-
went on to be in Black and Blue as well.
Yeah. And then
On that Man's Best Friend, Dean Castronovo plays drums on it.
okay.
And I'm pretty sure that Kurt James plays guitar. I could be wrong, but I know for sure that Dean Castronovo plays guitar. Plays drums on it.
All right.
So we
If
can't
not,
end this episode until
Pete
he
James
looks that
likes
up.
guitar. He definitely likes guitar.
But I know Dean Castronovo was on it. That was my whole point of the album cover. It was a cheesy album cover, and I finally got it, and it's really good. And I wish I had bought it when I kept seeing it. And I'm like, next week, and next week never came.
All right, now as we climb out of the Wild Dogs rabbit hole here,
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I have
next
a- I have
week,
a-
ranking the Wild Dogs album right here on Sea of Tranquility.
And
Nick, you
where's
don't see
Ryan's? Where's Ryan's dogs?
Oh, they're in the other room. They got
holy cow!
Come on, Nick.
seriously.
My dog's sleeping. So
Jeff Mark.
Nick's
Says
Nick's Google skills are a little lacking tonight, I think.
Nick,
You looking up the
But
album?
let's hear it for Nick's mustache.
Well,
That thing
but-
fucking
I know,
rocks.
that is
It's got a beard
colossal.
attached to it,
I
but
thought it was chocolate milk.
it's of course it's chocolate milk.
But
It
Nick,
doesn't
that's
really
the
look like
album.
Chocolate Milk, Steve.
Man's Best Friend.
It says Jeff Mark was the guitarist.
Man's Best Friend.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does it seem that Dean Castronovo though playing drums?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Guitar
I'm
Jeff Mark.
50-50 then. I had to get something right.
The biggest
This
mystery.
is on Discogs.
Anyway, our winner tonight is the Assault Attack by Michael Schenker.
Woo!
I forgot that we were doing that here, right? So
I hijacked the show again.
He hijacked it, man.
wild.
That was a proper hijacking.
That
I need a ransom note.
Yeah.
And listen, I gotta say, Christian, again, fuck you for this. Why would you make me have to pick between two of my biggest guitar heroes of my entire existence? That's not right.
Watch the show later.
That
It's great.
It makes for good entertainment.
it was
Yeah.
painful.
I'm
So
sure
next
there's gotta
week,
be a way
George
to do it
Lynch
again.
versus
83.
Eddie Van Halen.
Winner.
Death.
The
the death
You can't
match.
fuck with Edward.
Yeah, you're doing an 83 next time around, Pete. We'll find something.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Oh, I already know the two. Well, there's a couple in '83 you guys could get me with. Oof.
Mm.
Stay
Next
tuned
year,
in
man,
2023. We'll be doing this all over again a year from now.
Gotta wait the whole year.
Born Again versus Bark at the Moon.
No, the Thunder and Lightning, Holy Diver, Peace of Mind. Oh my
Oh, yeah.
God.
Pretty
Lot of
good
good
one.
A lot of good stuff.
Ooh.
Winner.
So everybody
What a
watching,
perfect day.
please vote for your favorite between these two: Michael Schenker Group, Assault Attack, and Gary Moore, Corridors of Power. Among the panel, we have a 5-2 win for Michael Schenker Group. So stay tuned next week because we've got Raven wiped out going up against Man of War Battle Hymns as we finish up our 1982 album war on the last day of the month of February. So I want to thank Steve Keeler and Nick Franco and Chris Canzaneri and Chris Allo and Butch Jones and Ryan Scal. Visit us on the web, www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. See you next week on the Hudson Valley Squares. Everybody, I am Pete Pardo. Good night. Take care.